Good morning, students. I hope my voice is clear. Are you able to listen to my voice?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, a quick recap into what we have seen in the last class, then we'll proceed with the topic for the day. The last class we have seen with Fermi level. Okay, so Fermi level is an imaginary level which will say the possibility of locating an electron, or what is the probability that electron will occupy that particular energy level. And the Fermi level function is given by this equation. And we have studied different cases what will happen if T is equal to 0. At the zero temperature, there is a 50% probability that you can find an electron. Okay. And when you travel for energy above the Fermi level, you cannot find an electron. The probability of finding an electron is going to be 0. When you see for all the levels below the Fermi level, the probability of finding an electron is going to be 1, or I can say 100%. So you can definitely find an energy level having an electron. Okay. And we have seen the location of Fermi level for uh, for a donor impurity. If you are going to add donor impurity, you can see the Fermi level will be close to the conduction band because you have lot of free electrons to move. But when you are going to have acceptor impurity, you will have lot of holes. So Fermi level will be close to your valence band. Actually, for an intrinsic semiconductor, you see the Fermi level is exactly in the middle. So the standard position is the Fermi level will be exactly in the middle. So depending on the acceptor impurity, it is going to move upwards. If it is going to be donor impurity, it is going to move downwards. So depending on what impurity you are going to add, the Fermi level is going to adjust itself towards the conduction band, or it is going to come down towards the valence band. And we have seen that as the temperature is going to increase, you will have increased conductivity of all the semiconductors. In that case, the Fermi level will return to the middle of the forbidden energy gap. So we have seen that in such a case, the number of electrons and holes become same. So when the electrons and holes are going to be equal in number, the Fermi level will return to the middle of the forbidden energy gap when I'm going to increase my temperature. So this is what we have seen in the last class. So I hope you don't have any doubt so far whatever we have seen, and I have given you enough chance in the class also to clarify all your doubts. So please don't hesitate to ask doubts. Only when you ask doubts, you will learn the subject even in a detailed way. Okay. So next topic is mass action law. Very important. You know, law of conservation of energy. Can somebody state what is law of conservation of energy? Thus, law of conservation of energy is having a close relationship with mass action law. Can somebody say what is law of conservation of energy?
Energy can neither be created nor be destroyed. It can be transferred from one
Yes.
form to another.
But it can be
Transformed
energy.
from one form to another.
Yes, energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can be transformed from one form to another. So same thing. A simple example: you are having a fan in your house, and you are switching on the supply to the fan. So electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. But definitely, you cannot say ideally 100% of electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. But practically, if you see, you will have some energy dissipated in the form of heat also. Okay, so energy is transformed from electrical to mechanical. Okay, same way here, whatever may be the semiconductor material, when you multiply the concentration of when you multiply the number of electrons and number of holes, it is always going to be constant. So if we are going to add an n-type impurity, the number of holes, number of electrons will increase. So number of holes will decrease accordingly so that the neutrality is maintained. When you are going to add a p-type semiconductor, number of holes will increase. So it will reduce the number of electrons. Again, that charge neutrality is maintained. Okay. So even though one charge carrier is going to increase, the other charge carrier will decrease in such a way that the total charge neutrality is maintained. So that is given by mass action law. See here, this is the equation for mass action law. Always N into P equal to Ni square. N is N is the number of electrons. P is the number of holes. Whenever you use the suffix I, it is going to be intrinsic carrier concentration. So product of number of holes and electron is constant always. And it is independent of how much doping you do. This is very, very important statement. So whenever you are going to do doping, accordingly n will increase or p will increase. Other naturally the other variable will decrease. Always this ni will be a constant term. So ni is the intrinsic carrier concentration. Intrinsic means pure semiconductor without any doping. Okay, when you perform doping, N and P will vary accordingly, making Ni is going to be always a constant. So this is mass action law. That's what I said. Energy cannot be wasted, right? So even though if the number of electron is increasing, naturally number of holes should reduce to make the charge neutrality inside the atom to be same. Correct. So that is what is done called as mass action law. And the statement is given here. The product of number of holes and electrons is constant and it is independent of the uh, donor or acceptor impurity, whatever you are going to add to the atom. So N into P equal to Ni square. This is for an intrinsic semiconductor. Now, if I'm going to add acceptor and donor impurity, we are going to see how this equation is going to change. Okay. See, so now you are going, you see, I am adding donor atoms. I'm going to add Nd amount of donor atoms. So your N, whenever you put suffix N, it is going to be N-type impurity, N-type semiconductor. Okay. So Nn will be equal to actually the number of electrons must be equal to number of holes. Okay, so Nn equal to Pn. But since I'm adding donor atoms, you will write Nn equal to Nd plus Pn. Nd is the number of donor atoms. When you compare Nd and Pn, the donor atoms are very, very large compared to number of holes. So Nd plus Pn is approximately equal to Nd. Okay, Nn is equal to Nd. The small n is your electron concentration. Capital N is the donor atom concentration. Don't confuse by mass action. By mass action law, we know Nn into Pn equal to Ni square. So if I want to find Pn, so Pn equal to Ni square by Nn. And what is Nn? Nn is approximately equal to Nd. So this is for an N-type semiconductor. So for an N-type semiconductor, the number of electrons will be approximately equal to the donor concentration. Okay, so I am replacing Nn by capital N suffix D. And the Nd is your donor impurity. Donor impurity means it's a group 5 element. So it is going to donate excess number of electrons to your atom. The same way, if you write for p-type impurity, Pp equal to Np. That is a charge neutrality condition. And in now we are going to add acceptor impurity. So Pp equal to Na plus Np. And N suffix A is going to be the acceptor atoms. When you put suffix P, it is going to be the p-type semiconductor. You might ask one question here. I am adding donor atom, so it is going to donate excess number of electrons. Why I am adding that electrons with the holes? Okay, so Nd should be added along with Nn only, right? Why I am adding Nd with Pn? See, all the excess number of charge carriers, when you add donor atoms, you are going to produce excess number of holes, excess number of electrons, but that is going to reduce the number of holes. But actually, the number of electrons should be equal to number of holes. To maintain the electrical neutrality, we are adding that Nd to Pn. Okay, so that at least the whole concentration is going to become constant. Okay, same way here, when you're going to add an acceptor impurity, the number of holes will increase, but the number of electrons will decrease. So in order to maintain the charge neutrality, I'm adding Na to the electron side, whereas I'm adding Nd to the whole side in the first case. Okay, so my Pp is approximately equal to Na. So if you use the mass action law, you can write Np equal to Ni square by Pp, or I can replace Pp by Na. So Np equal to Ni square by Na. So this is how your mass action law is modified for N-type and P-type semiconductors. See, everything has a logic there. You should not by heart things and write an exam. You should know the logic, how things and equations are formed in N-type and P-type semiconductors. Okay. And conductivity. So you know that in N-type, conductivity is purely due to the number of electrons, and electrons are given to donor atom. So I can replace N by Nd here. Nn will be replaced by Nd here, and Pp will be replaced by Na here. So the conductivity expressions also will be purely dependent on the donor and acceptor impurities only. So if you increase the doping, definitely the conductivity will also increase in an N-type and P-type semiconductors. So that is an important observation you are going to make in the mass action law. Any doubt you have in mass action law, you can ask me. This is to remember mass action law in a simpler way. You can consider mass action law to be an extended version of law of conservation of energy. Their energy is conserved here. The charge neutrality of particles is conserved. Okay, number of electrons and number of holes should always be constant, even if you are going to dope them with impurities. Clear? Any doubt you have, you can ask. I'll pause for a few seconds. Any doubt you have, you can ask. Okay, so if there are no doubts, I'll continue with the next thing. That's what is the reason why we are going to add the ND and Na is given here, and simultaneously you can do N-type and P-type also. So if you are having more number of the concentration of donor atoms exceed the concentration of acceptor atom, then it is converted from the P-type to N-type. So you can convert a P-type to N-type by using this concept. Okay, I am having if in a P type, if I am going to add more number of donor atoms, P type will become N type. Same way in an N type, if I am going to add more number of acceptor atoms, then my N type is going to be converted into a P type. So conversion from P type and P to N and conversion from N to P is always possible. That is why we are going to see the fabrication of PN junction diode. That's how PN junction diode is formed. So instead of converting from P to N and N to P, if I join one P section, one P type semiconductor and one N type semiconductor, that device is going to work wonders for me. So that device is going to be called as your PN junction diode. Okay. So remember, instead of converting from P to N and N to P, we are going to take say one cubic bar of P type, one cubic bar of N type, and I'm going to join them. When I'm going to apply electric field across the PN junction, that is going to be called as my PN junction diode, and it is going to be an essential part of all the semiconductor devices and integrated circuits. So variation of parameters you see as the temperature is going to increase. Okay, as the temperature is going to increase, we can see the conductivity will also increase. You know that when I see this equation, as my temperature is going to increase, this N will increase. N and P will increase. So product of N and P will increase. The product of N and P is increasing. You know, conductivity depends on, for N type, sigma depends on N. For a P type, sigma depends on P. When N and P are going to increase with temperature, definitely the conductivity is also going to increase with temperature. So remember, when you are going to increase the temperature in a semiconductor, the carrier concentration increases and the conductivity is also going to increase. Okay, if you specifically see for N-type semiconductor, so when you increase the temperature, already you have more number of free electrons. So the electron concentration will not be increasing, but the whole concentration will increase because holes are present in valence band, right? So the whole concentration will increase. In the P-type also, the number of holes will remain the same because they are already excess in number, but the number of electrons will be increasing. So the reverse will happen. So whenever you have excess number of particles, they will remain constant, and whichever particle is going to be the minority, that is going to increase. So to summarize, I say here, when you have an N-type semiconductor, the number of electrons will be constant. Then the number of holes will increase. In a P-type semiconductor, the number of holes will remain constant because they are already excess in number. The number of electrons will increase in temperature. So in either case, what is the advantage for us? When the particles number of the particles are going to increase, the conductivity is going to increase for me. The sigma value is going to be very, very high for me. So the temperature is going to have an indirect impact on the carrier concentration and the conductivity of the semiconductors. Very, very important observation we are going to make. And also mobility. You know, when you are going to apply, when the temperature is going to be very high, the particles move with a lesser speed. They will move with a lesser speed. Okay, so the simple, you know, summer is happening now. When you go out and walk at 12 o'clock in the mid noon, will you be able to walk fast or slow? You will definitely walk very slow, and you will at times don't want to go out and walk because the temperature will completely drain you. The same thing will happen in a semiconductor also. So the mobility, I told you, mobility is the ability of the charge carriers to move. So when you consider mobility of electrons and holes inside silicon and germanium, as the temperature is going to increase, the mobility of the carriers will decrease. They will start moving very, very slowly, and they will they will move within the that's what I said. It's a function of electric field and it remains constant. So mobility mu is proportional to electric field intensity and it remains constant. So generally, when the temperature is going to increase, the mobility is going to decrease. For silicon, you see always for silicon, you see the mobility is 2.5 for not mobility, the value of M. M is 2.5 for electrons and 2.7 for holes. For germanium also you see the value 2.33 for holes and 1.66 for electron. Where this M is coming, T power minus M. Okay, so for holes, the M value is larger, indicates that the mobility is very, very less for holes. And for electrons, the M value is relatively less than holes, so it indicates electrons are going to move with a higher mobility than the electrons will going to move with a higher velocity than the holes. So always in the semiconductor, electrons will move faster than holes. That is a return logic. And when you are going to increase the temperature, that speed is also going to be reducing. Okay, so the conductivity will depend on mobility. So the number of electron holes pairs will rise in temperature. The mobility is going to decrease. So if you see overall thing, see sigma depends on two things, n and mu. And what we have said, when you are going to increase the temperature, n is going to increase and mu is going to decrease. So effectively, if you see the product of these two things, the conductivity will slightly increase only. Okay, so see here the conductivity of an intrinsic semiconductor increases with increase in temperature. But if you see an extrinsic semiconductor, when you are going to increase the temperature, the conductivity is going to decrease because the mobility will decrease. So for intrinsic, when you put sigma I, for intrinsic, the conductivity is going to increase. For an extrinsic semiconductor, the conductivity is going to decrease because of the reason what I have told below. Okay. And energy gap will also decrease with increase in temperature. As the temperature is going to increase, more electrons will easily cross the barrier, which means the barrier energy level has reduced. Only when the barrier energy level is reduced, the electrons and holes can easily cross, right? So that is the reason. So when the energy gap is going to be increased, when the temperature is going to be increasing, the energy gap will reduce, and that will make your charge carriers cross the barrier energy gap easily and go to the conduction band. So this is the temperature effect on semiconductor. To summarize, I will say, so when you are going to see that variation of temperature, so in an intrinsic semiconductor, N and P will increase with temperature, so the conductivity will increase with temperature in an intrinsic semiconductor. Okay, so everything we are going to study for intrinsic and extrinsic, then only we can compare. For extrinsic semiconductor, whichever majority carriers are there, the carrier concentration will not increase. Whichever is minority carrier, that carrier concentration will increase. For example, in N-type, electrons are majority, so that will not increase. But holes are minority, so the number of holes will increase. In a P-type semiconductor, holes are majority, so they will remain constant. But electrons are minority, so they will start increasing. This is the effect of the carrier concentration on the temperature. Now mobility, whatever be the type of conductor, intrinsic, extrinsic, N type or P type, the mobility will always decrease with temperature. Okay, mobility will decrease with temperature. will decrease with temperature. And we have seen that in every atom you have electrons and holes, always electrons will have higher mobility compared to holes. That logic also you should remember. Finally, conductivity. For an intrinsic semiconductor, when you increase the temperature, conductivity will be increasing. Very, very important thing. But for an extrinsic semiconductor, when you increase the temperature, conductivity will decrease because mobility will decrease. Mobility will decrease. And இன்னொரு விஷயம் வந்து here n you are adding. When you do doping, this n will become Na, except Nd, donor impurity. And n விட Nd will be very, very less in number. So a sigma value will be effectively reducing. So intrinsic conductivity will increase with temperature. Extrinsic semiconductors conductivity will decrease with temperature. Very, very important observation to be made. And last one, energy band gap. As you know, when the temperature is going to increase, more energy is supplied to the electrons and holes, so they will easily capture the energy and they will cross from valence band to conduction band very easily. Or if the energy band gap is reducing, this crossing of electrons and holes will become even more easier. So when the temperature is going to increase, energy band gap is going to decrease. That is the observation. And you see here, Eg of T equal to Eg naught minus beta T. So minus indicates energy band gap is reducing. Here also you see sigma equal to sigma naught into 1 plus alpha into T minus T naught. So as the temperature is going to increase, definitely the conductivity is going to decrease because you have a minus sign here. Okay. So this is the effect of the temperature on the different parameters of a semiconductor. First one we have seen about N and P, then we have seen about conductivity, then we have seen about mobility, then we have seen about conductivity for intrinsic, conductivity for extrinsic, finally the energy band gap. Okay, see, logically you should remember values and all. Okay, you can refer to any book on it, but logically, if temperature is going to rise, you should clearly know what all changes will happen inside a semiconductor. That should be very, very clearly understood by you. So, any doubt in this topic, I'll just pause for a few seconds. You can ask. See, attendance, I will not take attendance during the class. Attendance will be automatically generated by Google Classroom and it will be mailed to me. I'll take attendance from that. So in the class, every effective, how we are going to make use of this class is with you. You are connecting to the class and going offline, I don't care, because you are going to lose what is being taught. If you are sincerely following this devices class, then things would become very, very easy for you. I can assure you that. இல்ல நான் கனெக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு நான் அப்படியே வேற எங்கேயாச்சும் போயிடுவேன் அப்படின்னா ஐ டோன்ட் பாதர். ஐ வில் கிவ் யூ அட்டெண்டன்ஸ், எவ்ரிதிங் வில் பி given. You will be losing your grade and mark. So ultimately the loser is you and not me. By teaching this subject again, I am becoming strong and strong in electron devices. Since you are reading for the first time, things will look very, very unfamiliar to you. So it is up to your own interest to get involved in the class and get all your doubts clarified so that you can enjoy and read electronic devices. So I hope there are no more doubts. So we'll pass on to the next presentation, part 2. So now we are going to, before we are going to read about PN junction diode, which is the actual syllabus starting, we need to know about all these basics, because directly if I start PN junction diode, you will not understand anything. Now, given that you know what is a P type, what is an N type, how will a P type will look like, what is inside P type, what is inside N type, when now if I teach PN junction diode, things will be very, very easy for you. Okay. So now we are going to see about currents, some of the currents in a semiconductor. Okay, some of the currents in a semiconductor. So normally we know current. What is current? Can anybody say what is current? What
Flow of
is current?
electrons.
Flow of electrons. What is the cause of current? When will the current flow happen? When will the current flow happen?
Potential difference.
Potential difference. Very good. The potential difference is the cause of current. Can current cause potential difference? Can current cause potential difference? See, when you apply a simple example, I will say, if you understand that, you can answer my question. If I am in electric motor, if I am giving DC voltage, it is rotating. So when I give electrical input, I am getting mechanical output. If I give mechanical input to some machine, can I get electrical output? Is the reverse possible?
Yes, sir.
What is that machine called as?
A
When you
generator?
give, it is called as
Electrical
Generator, sir.
generator. Very good.
generator?
Yes,
Electricity
generator.
generator?
Yes, you have the reciprocal also happening. Same thing here. If you current, if you have potential difference, you will have flow of current. If a current is flowing through a resistor, you will have potential difference. See how beautifully it is related. So which means that I can get current from voltage or I can get voltage from current. Both are interlinked. Okay. The same way, in when you study advanced concepts in electronics and communication, you will find that many like this voltage and current, many factors will be interlinked. Many things will be interlinked. So you will be able to find the relation which will be exploited for different applications. Okay. One more example I will say, when current passes through a wire, you have magnetic field. The wire will have magnetic field produced. Around the wire, you will have a magnetic field. It will have north pole and south pole. If you have magnetic field, can you produce current? That is also possible. So current is producing magnetic field is producing current. They are interlinked. Okay. So see, things are very nicely related in electronics and communication engineering. You have charges, you have potential. When you have a charge, you have potential difference. So one end is positive and one end fully electrons I have, one end fully holes I have. I have potential difference. When you have potential difference, you create charge. Again, see, both are interlinked. So lot of things are interlinked like that in electronics and communication engineering. If you understand that, it will be very, very helpful for you. Now we are going to see what is called as drift current. The drift current, as the name indicates, the what should come to your mind immediately is I'm applying some external force. And what force I'm applying? I'm applying electric field. So drifting means drifting cannot happen on its own. The drifting can happen only because of some external force. So when electric field is applied to a semiconductor, what happens when you apply electric field? You are applying an additional force, right? So these electrons will take that force inside and they will acquire additional velocity. That additional velocity is called as drift velocity, Vd. And drift velocity is equal to mobility into Vd equal to mu into E. So you know when you are going to apply electric field, mobility will increase. Because of mobility being increased, the velocity will also increase. So you know that you're going to connect a battery, and you know holes are positively charged, so holes will move towards the negative end of the battery and electrons will move towards the positive end of the battery. So this combined effect of electron and hole movement across the circuit is called as to produce a current. That current is going to be called as a drift current. The drifting happens because of applied external force. Because of the applied external force, the mobility will increase. Because of the mobility being increased, the drift velocity Vd will increase. So because of that, the holes will move fast towards the negative terminal of the battery. The electrons will move fast towards the positive terminal of the battery. The combined effect of electron and hole movement constitutes a current inside the device. That current is going to be called as a drift current. So drift current means it is not only because of electrons, it is because of both electron and hole movement when I am going to apply an electric field. This electric field is externally applied field. It is not present inside. It is an external applied electric field. Please understand this very, very carefully. Okay. See, the simple example is given. You have a current carrying wire and it has lot of electrons. So when an electron is going to travel for L centimeter, the length of the conductor is L centimeters. So an electron is going to travel L centimeters in t seconds. It is going to, the number of electrons passing will be N by T. So total current, it is number of electrons which is traveling per time. So I is equal to dq by dt. Here N electrons are there. So it is NQ by T. So dq by dt means when there is one electron is going to travel across the device in 1 second, you get 1 ampere of current. You know, I is equal to Q by T, correct? And Q is equal to 1. And one electron is crossing the conductor for 1 second. When T is equal to 1 by 1 becomes 1. So you get a current of 1 amperes. So we don't have one electron here. You have n electrons filled inside this conductor. So total number of electrons is n into Q divided by T. And you know how to find time taken. Time is equal to distance by velocity. What is the distance travel? It is the length of the conductor L. What is the velocity? Velocity is the drift velocity Vd. Okay, velocity is the drift velocity Vd. Okay, I am going to use the drift velocity Vd. So I am replacing T by L by Vd. So if you replace I is equal to NQ Vd by L. This is the value of current flowing through the wire. You know, wire will have length and area. So length is going to be small l, A is going to be the capital, A is going to be the area of the wire. Okay, and I am having n electrons. So the number of total current flowing through the wire is NQ by T. And you know the time T is the time taken for the electrons to cross the entire length of the wire. And you know time is equal to distance by velocity. And what velocity? You should not take velocity of light here. You should take the drift velocity, which is the velocity at which electrons are moving because of the applied external electric field. Very, very important. Okay. See, the largest velocity with which any particle can move, we have seen last class, it is velocity of light, and it happens only in free space. The C value happens only in free space. But here inside the wire, you don't have free space. You have a metal. So because of the metal present inside the wire, the velocity C will reduce to what is called as the drift velocity Vd. Okay. And I can find the current density. The whenever you have an area coming into picture, I can find what is called as current density. J is equal to current by area. So yeah, current value, you know, NQVD by L into A. And LA is, you know, length into area. What is length into area? What is
Volume,
length
sir.
in volume? So I can replace length into area by capital V. Or I can replace La is the volume containing the n electrons, and the electron concentration n is equal to n by La. See, n is the number of electrons and La is the volume. So it is number of electrons per volume. So I can replace that with small n. So I'm replacing small n, the electronic concentration, as capital N by La. See, everywhere we use, right, say 10 power 7 electrons per meter cube. So we have seen the case 10 power 7 electrons per meter cube. So meter cube indicates your volume. So length into area becomes volume, and this n is going to be just 10 power 7. So now your simplified J will become, see, n by La is going to be n. So n into Q into Vd. And n into Q, I'm going to combine it into rho. Rho is going to be the charge density. Charge density is amount of charges present per unit volume. It may be number of electrons or it may be number of holes. So charge density is specific to a particle. So how many charge particles are there in per meter cube of the semiconductor? Okay, so I'm going to replace this n into Q by rho. So I can write J is equal to rho into Vd. This is one notation for J. We know one more notation for J. See here, J is equal to NQ into Vd. And you know velocity, drift velocity is product of mobility and electric field, as we have seen here. So we have seen drift velocity, right? So drift velocity, which is equal to the product of mobility and electric field. So I can replace Vd by mu into E. And you know N into Q into mu is going to be conductivity. So J is equal to sigma into E. So two different notations for J we can calculate for a semiconductor, and both are going to be denoting the same. So one is going to be with respect to the charge density, one is going to be with respect to the conductivity. And this J is equal to sigma E is called as the modified form of Ohm's law. So can anybody say what is Ohm's law? You have studied, right? So what is Ohm's law?
V is equal to IR.
V is equal to
IR.
IR. Okay. So V is equal to IR. That is Ohm's law, right? So I will just explain you how this V is equal to IR is transformed here. V is equal to IR is Ohm's law. So now this is for a normal conductor. This V is equal to IR will hold good for any conductor, right? So it may be metal, it may be any device wherever this linear relationship V is proportional to I is there, you can directly apply Ohm's law in the device. And you know R is resistance, and there is a formula for resistance in terms of resistivity. So R is equal to rho L divided by A. So resistance is expressed in terms of resistivity. R is equal to rho L by A. Okay. So now see here, I am going to rearrange the terms. And what is I by A? What is I by A? We have seen just now.
J. J.
J. So what will this expression become? I can write this expression as J into rho into L. Clear? See, I have taken Ohm's law. I am going to demonstrate to you how this Ohm's law becomes, how this J is equal to sigma E is called the modified form of Ohm's law. So I have taken V is equal to IR, and I can write the resistance as rho L by A. Rho is the resistivity, L is the length of the conductor, and A is the area of the conductor. You know, current per unit area is current density given by J. So J rho L. So I am bringing this rho to that side and L to this side. So I'm having only J on this side. Okay, so I'm going to write J is equal to V by rho L. Okay, and you know what is 1 by rho? What is 1 by resistivity? What is the inverse of resistivity?
Conductivity.
Resistivity means will stop the flow of electrons. What is the opposite of that? Conductivity means allowing the flow of electrons, right? So 1 by rho becomes sigma. And what is V by L? Voltage per unit length is electric field. Okay. So when you rearrange Ohm's law, you get J is equal to sigma E. I cannot use Ohm's law for semiconductor because Ohm's law is perfectly valid only for metals. So if I want to use Ohm's law for semiconductors, semiconductors have a parameter called conductivity. So I cannot use it directly. So I have to convert my Ohm's law into some other form called as J is equal to sigma E. So now J is equal to sigma E I can use in semiconductors because I know the expression for sigma. Sigma is equal to N into Q into mu. N type means I'll be using small n. P type means I'll be using P. Okay. So drift current density or the moment drift is whenever you see this drifting means moving fast. When will you move fast? When you have lot of energy, or when you are driving a car, you will drive the car fast in the road when you find that the road is empty. One condition, that there are no obstacles in the road. Second condition, you are driving early in the morning and you are fresh and you are having lot of energy. Okay, so drifting happens when some external force is going to push you from one place to another. So here the external force is called as electric field. This electric field is going to do what? It is going to push the holes in the positive terminal and negative terminal of the battery, and it is going to push the electrons into the positive terminal of the battery. So this combined movement of electrons and holes is going to be called as drift current. The current, because of the movement of holes and electrons, because of applied electric field, is called as drift current. And whenever you say about drift current, you also have to say about this term drift velocity. The velocity at which electrons are moving when an electric field is applied is called as drift velocity Vd. And drift velocity will be always less than the velocity of light c. Okay, the c is the maximum velocity a particle can travel in free space. So this Vd will be always less than c. So I hope this simple derivation on how to change the actual Ohm's law to get modified Ohm's law is clear for a semiconductor, right? Anybody is having doubt in this portion, you can unmute yourself and ask your doubt. See, the beauty of electronics is here only. If one formula is not, I cannot use it for my concept. I will try to modify that formula in such a way that how can I use that modified formula for my concept. See, here this one such beautiful example. V is equal to IR. I cannot use it directly because V is equal to IR is valid only for conductors. But what I am dealing here is semiconductors, right? So if I am going to use the Ohm's law for semiconductors, I cannot use V is equal to IR. I'll be using the modified form of Ohm's law called as J is equal to sigma E. Because semiconductors, you have a phenomenon called conductivity, which is going to depend on temperature. Okay, that is the important thing. And you see here, I told you drifting happens whenever you calculate drift current. You have to calculate it for both electron as well as hole. So you will have two expressions: drift current density for electrons and drift current density for holes. Okay, so drift current density for electron Jn will be equal to Q into N into mu N into E. Drift current density due to force is given by Q into P into mu P into E. And you see here, Q and E will be common to both. N is number of electron, P is number of hole. Mu N is the mobility of electron, mu P is mobility of holes. Okay, so you have to be considering both the effect of electron and hole movement, because drift current is addition of both the drift current due to electron plus the drift current due to holes. And I hope this is the basic formula for J we have been seeing from the beginning of this unit, right? So J, I think this expression should be familiar to you. Only thing what we are doing, whenever you say I'm going to find for electron, you have to use small n, and for mobility the suffix will be small n. Whenever you are going to do for holes, you have to use P, and for mobility you have to use the term mu P. Because mobility of electron is not equal to mobility of holes, electrons will travel with a faster mobility compared to holes. Mobility same will be using the same mu, but இங்க வந்து the same mu use பண்ண மாட்டோம் because the mobility of electron is very, very large compared to the mobility of holes. So compared to electrons and holes, electrons will travel faster compared to the holes. So the Jn will be always large compared to Jp. So one relation I can from here, the current density due to electron will be larger compared to the current density will be larger compared to the current density due to holes. So Jn will be very, very large compared to Jp. Okay. So now, having known about what is drift current, now we should know what is diffusion current. So two types of current in a semiconductor. First one, drift current we have seen. Drift current is because of the applied electric field. And diffusion current. So diffusion current is just like I told you an example, right? So whenever you have a potential difference, you have current flow. But semiconductor potential difference, we don't use the term voltage in a semiconductor. We always use the term concentration. See, you are doing doping, right? So you are doping a semiconductor and making it N type or P type. But in the doping one, it will not be always uniform. So நீங்க எவ்வளவுதான் யூனிஃபார்மா பண்ணாலும் the doping will be in such a way that in one portion of semiconductor you have lot of atoms. In one portion you have very much less number of atoms. So what happens? You have a concentration variation. This concentration variation is going to result in charge movement. When charges are going to move, you are going to have current. Simple. Is it clear? I will say an example. You take two glass bowl. One glass bowl is 100% full. One glass bowl is 50% full. And you connect both the bowls by a glass rod. What will happen? What will happen? Can anybody say what will happen? I'll explain the scenario again. Please listen carefully. I have two glass bowls. Two glass bowl. One glass bowl is 100% full with water. One glass bowl is 50% full with water. 50%, 100%. And in the middle of both the bowls, I'm going to make a small hole and I'm going to connect both the bowls using a glass rod. What will happen? What will happen?
Water will move from
Water
100% bowl
water
to
will flow from
50% bowl.
100% to
100%, 50% bowl, sir.
50% water. And what is the final state?
Equilibrium.
Both will be having the equal percentage of water, right? Same thing is happening here. Because of because of doping, you are going to have concentration gradient. What is concentration gradient? One side you have a lot of electrons or holes. Other side, you have less number of electrons and holes. So one side, the concentration of carriers is going to be very, very large. Another side, the carrier of concentration is going to be very, very less. You have potential difference. One side, I have a lot of electrons. One side, I have a very much less number of electrons. You have potential difference. This potential difference will always give rise to current. Same way here, because of concentration difference, I am going to have current. How the current is flowing? Because of the concentration difference, the charge carriers will move from higher concentration to lower concentration. As I told in the glass bowl example, the water is flowing only from 100% to 50%, and it is not flowing from 50% to 100%, right? The same way here also, the charge carriers will move from higher concentration area to lower concentration area. You know, whenever your charges are going to move, it is going to cause diffusion current. So this movement of charge carriers, because of the concentration change, it is called as diffusion current. Drift current, I am applying an external electric field. Diffusion current, I am not applying any external electric field. It is purely because of the concentration of the charge carriers inside the semiconductor. So see here, the diffusion current will depend on the type of charge carriers and the charge concentration gradient. The type of charge carriers na the electron or hola illa concentration gradient. How much percentage difference is there between the charge concentration on both sides? Whether ஒரு சைட்ல 100% இருக்கு, ஒரு சைட்ல 0 இருக்கா, இல்ல 90-10 இருக்கா, இல்ல 80-20 இருக்கா, இல்ல 70-30 இருக்கா, இல்ல 60-40 இருக்கா? Only till 60-40 case, this concentration gradient, whenever 50-50 வந்துச்சுன்னா, when the concentration gradient is same on both sides, there is no charge movement. So either it can be 100-0 or it can go till 60-40. So எந்த gradient இருக்கிறதுனால this diffusion current is happening, it will depend on two things. One is the type of charge carriers, and second one is the concentration gradient. So what is the difference in concentration I have on both sides? That will determine the diffusion current density. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. Okay, so I told you we have second period also ED class. So I'm going to stop here. The class will be online. Maybe you can go out and again join, but I will be online throughout. I will join the same link. We'll continue the class from 9:30. So I'm going to break now. You have 13 minutes of break. You can refresh yourself and come back at 9:30. So we'll again meet at 9:30. Those who have any doubts can stay here and ask. Others can take a break and join back at 9:30 in the same link. You can even mute and go. Not an issue for me, but be back to the class at 9:30 again. Okay. If anybody is having doubts, you can ask.